Hello, everyone, and a big thank you for watching this podcast again. And I have a treat for you. One of my friends, someone I have a joy of mentoring as well, is Mr. Bruce Naidoo is in the house. Mr. Bruce, thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast today. How you doing?
Well, yes, awesome, Dave. Thank you as well for the opportunity and for the invite. It's truly a privilege to be able to meet with you on this platform and to be able to, I think, contribute, should I say, to the work that you have been doing, which is amazing. So, yes, excited to be here
You're so
and
kind.
let's see what we can do.
Absolutely. Amazing. So I firstly, I think we should start off by you telling everyone who is Bruce Naidoo? Where do you come from? What do you do, and why do you do it? Anyway, anything like that would be great. Who is
And you
Bruce?
start from
Tell us
a,
about
yeah.
Bruce.
So yeah, Bruce is almost 50-year-old male based in Durban. I think the reason why I say that is because I'm shocked at sometimes as how fast time flies by, and before you know it, you're hitting those numbers and those milestones. So yeah, I run a company called Skyline Master Batch. We produce additives, plastic colorants, and process aids. Anything to do with plastic additives, we do that. Manufacture it in KZN, supplying Africa as well as regional outlets, and we've got global ambitions. So we are reaching for the stars, and that's a small synopsis of what Bruce and Skyland is about. We've been going now for about 22 years, but in business as a whole, from the time of my from the time my father has set up the businesses, we've been going for almost 40 years. So I've taken
Wow.
the reins of almost 22 years. Yeah.
Wow. 40 years this business has been going, and you've been going
Yeah.
22, 23 years
Yes.
as
Yes.
CEO. You're
In this
CEO of
particular
the business,
business.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit more. Some of us, especially me, don't know an awful lot about plastics, etc. What makes you unique or special in the field? What's so special about your business?
Yeah, I think for us, plastic is a common product that's used across the globe. Many manufacturers around the globe that do what we do, but I think what sets us apart is the commitment that we have to our customers and the relationships that we've been able to nurture along the way. Building relationships has been the key to our business. And I think for us, it was the foundations to understand our values and our cultures first before we could take it out into the market. And we are not a transactional business. That for me
Mm.
has always been the forefront. We don't believe in transactions. We believe in commitment and being committed not only to our customers but their objectives as well. So that was what I've set out to do, and it's been my lifelong ambition to ensure that we build relationships and long-standing relationships along the way. So yeah, that's what sets
I
us apart from different companies.
I I wonder there's so much there right now I could pick on. Tell me, what is the difference between transactional and relational then? Because you make a big, you differentiate yourself, right, from not being transactional and being relational. Unpack that for me for a minute. What's the difference?
Yeah, I think the main difference is understanding a customer is as an entity, is an individual. Going deeper in terms of understanding the customer's needs, their goals, their ambitions, understanding what makes their businesses evolve and transform itself, knowing that how we can be a part of that and helping them grow. So when it comes to relationship, transactional is it's merely I come in, I take an order, or I'm able to satisfy a specific need at this present time, walk out without even thinking about what's going to happen in 5 years and 10 years. I mean, we've got customers on our database for 22 years that has been with us. And once you join us, you don't, we don't give you an opportunity to say no or to leave. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that your needs are met. And in any relationship, that's important is to understand both sides. So I was asked the question if I'm in business to make money or am I charity? So I said, money is not our forefront. What's important, yes, every business is there to be profitable and every business is to contribute to its shareholders in terms of an income or profits or whatever the case may be. But the lifetime value of a customer is unmeasurable. And it's all
Mm,
determined on how we as an individual, as a business or an organization can carry that through. So it's a
mm.
personal relationship that we have.
I love that. I mean, anyone spends 5 minutes with you, Bruce, will know that you lead from your heart. That's how you lead, and your company absolutely echoes that. So, I know I've been around it. And your LTV, or your lifetime customer value, is that's how you build intrinsic wealth into your business. I think when you're transactional, it's all about the quick buck. It's about making the GP. But building a client that's going to be with you for 22 years, now you're building security and wealth into your business, right? You're building someone that is going to help fill your order book for the next 20 years. I think that is certainly what makes you stand apart from everyone else. But I think it's a valuable lesson in any business, right? But it
Yeah,
takes time, doesn't it? It takes time to build these relationships.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think if we calculate our lifetime, I mean, our closing cycles can last from 6 months to 2 years before we even close a deal. Understanding that it takes that amount of time to break into specific industries. But yeah, we sometimes have to be patient and persevere with those
Mm.
sort of transactions, or should I say, those sort of cycle times. But it does take a lot of time, investment, growing that sort of portfolios.
Yeah, it's the go slow to go fast, principle, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
but you must be tempted sometimes to, like, come on, let's just do something to make this thing happen quicker. And you must be a real temptation to speed this thing up somehow, surely.
Oh, absolutely. We will try every means possible to reduce the time to close our deals and to close our customers. What we find is in certain areas of business where they are used to transactional type businesses, or it might work. If you're looking at where companies are not really interested in terms of the quality or the security of their supply, who's only interested of getting product now at the best price. So they would buy from anyone. And that's not a sort of
Mm,
business that you want in a sort of client in
mm,
your business. I mean, yes, it's good to keep the numbers going, keep your machinery operational. But from a long term, those customers are not going to sit with you. They're not committed to your business as well. So it's a commitment from both sides. It's a partnership that has to be built on over time. And yes,
mm.
trying to speed up the process, we've done that, we've tried that, but it's not long lasting. It doesn't.
Mm.
It's either we get frustrated in terms of the customer's expectation, or the customer gets frustrated that we are either overbearing. I would think. So
Right.
sometimes it works. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know we're talking about stuff we didn't think,
Yeah.
think we're going to talk about, but this is really interesting. So, what advice would you give to someone who's starting a new business that has a pressure to make sales because they need to get revenue generating? But yet, what we're just saying here is, if you just sell your soul or sell your custom to any customer, you're not building intrinsic value. How do you get that right if you're starting a company? How do we get that right?
I think that's going to be how the entrepreneur can actually persevere. Like how are they built? We find that I mean, as you've uh, spoken about numerous of times on your podcast, it's just a small number of people or individuals that take on that mantle and take on the responsibility to grow a business or to start a business. But when you start that commitment to say, I want to go and I want to start this business, you have to understand that putting in that long efforts or that long days or long weeks and long months is what you got to prepare for, because you will be
Mm,
disappointed if you feel that you're going to walk in do your numbers, get your turnover up, get your profitability up. The business is not going to last because quick
Mm,
as you got those customers, someone else is going to come and take them off your hands as quick as possible as well, because you're not giving your time to spend with your customers. So you have to be in it for the long run. Understand that when you're going slow, it costs you money, it costs you time, it costs you effort. But in the long run, those that you're investing right now will actually compound to what you're expecting at a later point. And we
mm,
mustn't be naive to think that business is easy. It's not. It is, and especially when it's a business to business enterprise, and if that's what you're stepping into, that's where the longer term comes in for revenue generation, profit generation. But when it's when it's a B2C business, then it's depending on that point
mm,
what the consumer is actually needing and how much research you've
mm,
done to get in that particular product in. So I've learned that. In order to speed up the process, you've got to really understand your market, understand your
mm.
needs, find the opportunities, and spend time understanding those aspects of the business. Uh, because at the end of the day, if you're not able to satisfy a customer's need, the customer is not going to buy from you.
Wow, some really good advice there. So spend time, understand who your customers are, understand what their needs are. You're saying, also you differentiate quite nicely difference between B2B and B2C. If you build a strong B2B relationship, you've got security. A B2C is probably a little bit more difficult, more different. So what everything I'm hearing you say is about actually being deliberate. You're a very deliberate person, intentional. Is that right?
Yes,
These are the words I'm hearing you.
absolutely.
So, do your research well. Go slowly. Spend time. Don't rush the process. Be deliberate. You're listening to you. You're talking about building something that's solid. It's going to be around for a while, right? Is that
Uh,
what's going on here?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We got to think 20, 30, 40 years down the line. Is this business still going to be, if I have to sell, what sort of value am I going to get for this business? What am I in this business for? And understanding those will actually help you along the way.
So here's a challenge now. Now this opens up a challenge. You are Mr. Relational. Anyone listening to this podcast the last 5 minutes would have get that right. And it
Absolutely.
works really well because you are in the driving seat. You're doing it. But one day you're not going to be here. One day you're going to want to exit this business. So how are you going to scale a business that is no longer reliant on you?
Yeah, that's been what I've been trying to work on in the last 2 years, since we started the discussion on scaling and trying to remove Bruce out of the picture, to
Mm,
ensure that the business moves on. As much as we're taking time to find our customers and building that, the same has to apply with the team that you're building. You have to be aware of the people that you are bringing on and their commitment to the businesses. And as much as it's to you, you got to
mm,
understand what's their commitment that's going to be into the business, what value is going to come in for them. So bringing in those individuals, the desires that they have, I think that has been important for me. Finding individuals that are able to understand the vision, know the purpose, and spend time with me to learn my values and my culture and what makes me different is important. I don't expect everyone to be like me, and I've seen that across every relationship that I currently have, either from my family, friends, colleagues, staff, anyone. Everyone is different. There's no one that is alike. And one thing that I had to learn was that at some point someone's going to do it differently. But how different
mm,
can it be from the actual vision that we're setting up for? If your ultimate goal is to have a legacy business, then your vision and your mission statements and everything that the company believes in, the core values, has to be passed on during along the way. So
mm.
spending time, I think you said it quite nicely with its time plus proximity equals influence. And
Mm,
that's what you got
mm.
to invest in. As much as my team is investing in the time with customers, I got to invest in time with them.
I love that because essentially what you're talking about is DNA. You are creating the DNA of the the business, and DNA is highly reproducible, right? So when we talk about scaling a business, we're actually talking about how do we reproduce this business? How do we reproduce the DNA of Bruce within the individual members of this business so when they work like you, they work, obviously with their own flair, right?
Yeah,
And so there is this sense of, I remember our conversations early on was, how do we unpack Bruce? Remember that comment that we said, how do you unpack
absolutely.
him? So what shifted in your thinking when you realized that your business needed to scale beyond you? So what actually shifted? Obviously, you said that how would you answer that? What shifted?
Yeah, coming to the realization that I can't be in every place at the same time. Firstly, it was taxing. It was toning. It took uh, yeah, it created health complications, health issues, where you have a vision in mind, but you don't know how to execute it because you understand that you've only got two hands and that you can only hold so much in those two hands.
Mm,
And asking the right questions. For me, the change came when I was asking the right questions and being aware that I can be the roadblock to the
mm.
growth of the organization, to this legacy that I want to leave behind. And how do I remove that roadblock is by trying to expand myself in different ways. So scaling for me came in from that. If I wanted to grow, and as I think it was in your last podcast, you were speaking about the business as a child. You can't be stagnant because if you're stagnant, you're not going to grow. You're going to die, and eventually
Mhm,
that's what happens because you're not feeding yourself. And if you treat your business as a living being, as an entity that has life in it, you understand you cannot remain at a specific level because then
mhm,
it doesn't make sense. There's no value, there's no purpose anymore. And for me,
mhm.
relationship, I'm purposeful, and I understand that this business means is bigger than me. Actual fact, any business is bigger than the person that started it. And that is for sure, because the potential that it has is limited to the person that's running it. And
Wow.
that
Hang on,
to
say that
me
again.
is important.
Say that again, Bruce. The
The,
potential.
the business's potential is limited to the person that's running it.
It's absolutely, you are the limitation as CEO, isn't it? Whatever we lead, we can become the ceiling to it, right? Um, and I think this is the point that every CEO gets to is they bring themselves into it. They can, but they reach this level. It has happened to me in my businesses, right? I realized that the vehicle, the Dave that got you this far, is not the Dave that's going to get you there, and this Dave needs to change. And I can see many times in my life I've had to change in order for the things to move. But when you change, it's a giving up of control, isn't it? It's a giving up of the way you do things. So the question I have then is, so what has been the hardest part of letting go of control? And maybe how have you navigated it? How, because that's what you're talking about. You're giving up
Yeah,
some
yeah,
control here. How does that work for you?
100%. It goes back to saying that the business is bigger than you. You got to put your ego aside and understand that as much as you're saying that you're letting go, you're not letting go. You're helping it grow. If you're
Mm,
helping it grow, then by you staying then holding it back in control, you're stagnating again. And this is what it is. You as an individual, or myself, for instance, I had to learn that if I'm going to be the roadblock, this is going to be the consequences that's going to take place. And I openly say to my team as well, if at any point that you feel that I am creating roadblocks within the system by changing and maneuvering things around that's deviating from the process, run it to me because at the end of the day, it costs money. It costs relationships along the way. So bring it to me, because we can be blindsided that we are only,
Mm,
focused on getting a particular objective met, but without seeing the rest of it. So being aware, self-awareness is so important, Dave. I think
yeah.
I can take it back 10 to 15 years ago, when I started to ask the question, what is Bruce about? What do you want from your life? Where are you going with
Mm,
this? What are you? So asking yourself those questions is important, because if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to get the answers, and you can be
mm,
still stuck in that quagmire that's going to pull you down. I think that for
mm.
me is something that I had to realize.
Wow.
So
There's two things I want to pick up on from what you said there, which I think are just profound. The first one is you talked about creating, my words, you created a safe place where people felt they could make recommendations to you and criticisms maybe, but in a proactive way. Would that be true? You create that.
yes.
Maybe tell me a little bit more about that. How did you create this safe place?
So one thing I've learned from a very wise mentor, that trust is not earned; it's given. And
True.
I have to give the trust in order to be able to get trust. So placing the key individuals in a room and trusting them with what I've developed over the last 20 odd years into their hands, and letting them know that you are now responsible of taking care of this. How are
Mm,
you going to handle it? What are you going to do?
mm,
Do you have the ability to, we got to ask those questions. Are you up for this
mm,
challenge? Mistakes are going to happen, because I made mistakes along the way. I'm not perfect. I had to learn along the way through my mistakes. And what I've learned, I'll help you along the way. If you're going to be making new mistakes, then you better learn quickly not to repeat those mistakes. That's the only thing that I've told them. And that's what has happened. Having to give the trust was important for me. And I must say, till date, the people that I've entrusted with taking care of the operation in the way it needs to be done, they've doing a phenomenal job. And yeah, so I think that's for me was, I've given the trust, and yeah, that's it.
I love that. I mean, again, it's worth reiterating that trust is not earned; trust is given. I've always believed that. And when you give people trust and you create a space where that trust can grow, then you're starting to build what we call high performing teams, right? The second thing that you
Absolutely.
mentioned, again, my words here is it's not so much about letting go. You're not letting, it's like when you're growing a child, you don't let go of a child when it becomes a teenager. You still its dad, right? But
Absolutely.
your leadership or your parenting moves from one of authority to one of influence. And I think what I'm seeing in the way you've led your team is that you've shifted from having authority over them to having influence with them. Maybe you want to speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely. It was something that I had to learn, because transactional analysis, I think that's where it comes through from, that the discussions that we've had quite a few times, is to
Mm,
understand that when we are influencing, we got to be there as their mentors and their guides. Where if you keep on having that sort of parent style of leadership, you'll always be the one with the answers, and no one benefits from that. No one benefits
mm,
from you being the authoritative figure, who you run your business with an iron fist, and or a dictatorship sort of style of leading. It works, it does, not to say no, but to an extent it comes with a toll, because I needed to look at what's best for me as an individual as well, to understand the stress that has to go into a person that's running a business in that sort of
mm,
ownership and authoritative space, whereas trying to run it from a place of influence. And I must say, it has helped me become a better person, because you're helping,
mm,
firstly, people grow. And secondly, it has helped
mm,
me grow to understand different cultures, different characters and things of that nature. So I think that was
I
important.
love that.
But just
So
yeah,
you're referring to transactional analysis, which is a way of looking at how we transact with people, and it talks about parent, adult, child state. So, by the way, some great videos on YouTube if you're listening in on that, which I might make available in the notes of this one. TA is really really important. We're getting close to the end of our time, but I've got a couple more questions I want to just throw at you. So
so
you're quite a long way down the line now. We've been working together a couple of years, and you've actually just recently put in a general manager. And I've had the pleasure of working with her. Her name's Ella, and she's absolutely a delight, by the way. Talk to me about that, because that's probably been the biggest transition for you, isn't it? Is that you've literally put somebody in and she's growing in her influence in the business. Talk to me about that, putting in a general manager. How did that feel and how's that working?
yeah, it's an actual. It has been. A saving grace, should I say, because I can start to focus on the areas where I need to be in terms of the growth of the organization. And she has been a tremendous help and assistance when it came to navigating the relationships with the team. She's been phenomenal, and that as well as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, it takes time to find the right people. And being aware of the
Mm,
right people that needs to come along, spending time with them to make the decision. It didn't come easy. It took us a long time for us to decide who's going to fit into that space of a general manager who understands the value of relationships, who understands the value of how each individual contributes to the wheel of the organization and nurturing
mm.
that. And yeah, so we were quite fortunate, and that Ella came our way to do this, and she's taken up the mantle as well. You find your 1% of individuals that come along, be aware, and you take that on. So yeah, I think Dave, just in terms of having to release that, for me, it's quite easy. As I said, she has proven herself over time with everything that she was able to do. The quality in terms of the trust factor that she has with her team has been phenomenal.
Mm,
She's proved herself over and over again to be able to lead
mm.
the team in a specific way. So for me, it was quite easy.
Wonderful. And I hope she's going to be listening to this, so she'll be very, very pleased, I'm sure. But it's a big step,
It,
entrusting
it
someone to
is.
come in, and what it should do, and I can see it has done for you, is it releases capacity for you. So I know that you are focusing on business development in new areas, and you've just acquired another business, and you're already starting on that journey as well. So I
Yeah.
know you're moving into a new space, the CEO space as well. My last question, Bruce, for us today is this. I love this. I love the expression that life is lived forwards but understood backwards. We understand life by looking backwards, right? That's what gives meaning, but we live it forwards. So let's look in our rear mirror for a moment, looking back. What would you have done earlier or differently, given what you now know? What would you have made changes on differently or done earlier?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. For me, I'll always go back to finding the right people, understanding that the community that you build yourself around, the information that you take in, the advisory group that you develop for yourself, those are the important factors. At first, if I have to go back, business, I always said that it's a lonely place. Entrepreneurs will be the most depressed, the most lonesome. They will be sitting in corners and finding themselves tucked away, not wanting to speak to anyone. But I think be aware of the people that you can bring into your circle. Don't put up high walls. For me, it was always been protective of what I'm doing and not
Mm,
letting people in. And I think I would change that if I was looking back 20 years along the way, is looking out for people that can guide you and who are truly there for you. Finding yourselves mentors like yourself, Dave. I mean,
mm,
you've been phenomenal to me. And I just want to share in terms of how that had taken place was I think about 6 or 8 years ago, I knew that I was at a specific level I've reached a ceiling, and there was things that I needed, but I didn't know where to get it. So I then looked at finding individuals, organizations that will help me understand and unpack business better.
Mm, mm,
So, and that's what I've done. So tie yourselves up to excellent and wise individuals like yourself, Dave. Finding people
Oh,
that
so
can
kind.
support you in that. That's important.
Yeah. It's interesting. Ancient wisdom teaches that wisdom is found in many counselors, and the wise have a counsel around them. And I really do. And I've had a mentor, a guy called Mike Ivy, who still is my mentor in my life, that we've walked a journey with. And it's important to have at least one, if not a number of people that you walk a journey with, that you are vulnerable with, you do share your weaknesses and your strengths with. Um, to have someone that's maybe even just 1 year ahead of you in the journey, is incredibly good. So, yeah, and I would certainly say to anyone starting a business that, from my side, as you have echoed, having someone to walk with you on the journey is essential. Yeah. Bruce, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. You have shared some incredible, deep insights. Would it be okay if people want to reach out to you on WhatsApp or whatever you, and just if they've got a question specifically to you, you're happy for them to reach out to you and answer their question, if that's okay?
That's perfect, Dave.
Put putting
Always
on the
willing
spot
to
now.
assist, and no, not a problem. We'll definitely assist those that need help. And if you have a
Um,
question, yeah, we're sure we'll be able to answer them if we can.
Amazing, and you can find Bruce. He's on the DB Labs WhatsApp groups that we're on, and so you can find him on that. Thank you everyone for being part of our podcast and for listening, and we look forward to seeing all of you at some point. And Bruce, again, thank you for your time spent. Hope you have a
Mm.
great rest of your day.
No, Dave, thank you, and once again, so appreciative of this opportunity.
Okay, cheers, bye.
Cheers, bye.